Welcome, everyone. We are live with the Pontificators. It's Wednesday night. It's a Pontificator night. So, we got some cool stuff to talk about. This show, we get, I guess, a little edgier than, I guess I talk about things from time to time. But yeah, we get into subjects, mostly pop culture, comic books, that type of thing, and we just pontificate them to death. We try to come up with every angle, solution, address the problem, things like that. So we are going to talk about some cool stuff tonight. And this came to us from Clint. Clint Halinsky said, many pros are tempted by CG, but scared to get blacklisted by Marvel and DC. What would it take to get past that stigma so pros could do stuff with CG and back and forth with the big two? So I thought that was pretty good. So that's pretty much what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the stigma of Comicsgate and maybe what it would take for more people to come over and to hang out with us, to create comic books with us. We just got Del Keown. We got currently we even got Graham Nolan and Aaron Lopresti and Andy Smith. And I've been talking to some others that maybe we'll be announcing soon. But Clint's doing something. I can see him. He's shaking something over his head. I don't know what is he making? What is he doing? He's shaking that Stuart. I'll wait for him to get more into his camera. But yeah, we got Clint here. I think Bob, Comic Book Bob, said he would try to show up if he could. He said he got called into work, but he may be able to work or hang out from his computer at work. And I think Todd Mulrooney would show up. Although you never know with Todd. He might show up like the last 15 minutes of the show. I'm thinking that's how it's going to happen. So it looks like it's just going to be Clint and I, at least for a while. Let's get Clint in here. What's up? What? I saw you mixing something. What are you doing?
Oh, little shaker action going on here.
Yeah, but what are you mixing?
A martini.
Oh, shit. Wow. You know what? I debated whether to drink, so I'm going to see how well you do and how much fun you're having. I might go down and grab a beer, but these late night streams, these drinking streams, are starting to take their toll on me, man.
Oh, I was going to say I don't recommend it. You don't sleep as good as you would otherwise.
I don't know, man. I never have a hard time sleeping at all. I'm one of those guys that can sleep on a public bus.
Yeah, that's not me.
Yeah, I can sleep on a plane. I actually like it. It's weird, like we're so much in our studio, we're so much in front of our desk, and for some reason when I go to the airport, not so much the airport, but once I get on the plane, once the stress of getting there, I just relax. I just fall apart, man. And so even like a 6-hour flight, I'll sleep right through it, man.
I am the opposite of that. I'm comfortable once I get on the plane, but there has to be movies. Like I need some sort of distraction because I can't relax to the point of falling asleep. I remember I did a straight through. Right after I got married, I did a straight through Minneapolis to Hawaii, Oahu, and I think it was like a 9+ hour flight. And it was my first time flying over the ocean. And I mean, there weren't the little mini screens on the seats back then. There was one screen that showed where you were crossing the United States, and that was it. And I was like, that was the longest flight of all time.
I like that. They do that still, like where it's like the Indiana Jones map, and you
exactly
see it fly across. We spent some time with the kid in Florida, and gosh, it's only like a 2-hour flight now. I'm used to like 6-hour flight with layovers and stuff like that, but it was only 2 hours, and also there is something weird. It's not like crazy, but there is kind of the time difference, and there is kind of this jet lag thing that happens. And when my wife and I went to Florida, we were like, this is great. We felt really good. And then we had to think about it. And then we're like, because we're only an hour difference, like we didn't really, so our lunches, all of our schedule was the same pretty much within an hour. And so it was like one of the best times I've ever had, because it was like we were in it felt like a completely different place.
Yeah.
But nothing was different. You know what I mean? Like our meals, our sleeping schedule, everything was pretty much the same.
Anytime I travel east, I love it because you gain that hour, and it's easier to stay, like as you get older, it's way harder to stay up late. You go east and it's like, it's like 11 o'clock. I feel great.
Yeah.
My wife loves Hawaii. So every once in a while we'll go to Hawaii, and it's like, it kills me. It's like 9 o'clock and I'm like just done for the day. And it's like brutal. But yeah, if I go east, I'm like, oh yeah, I can go whoop it up with, the younger guys and everything.
Yeah. When we lived in California, Hawaii was never an issue. It's like just a couple hours to, to get to the islands and stuff. So, but it felt really, I think it felt different because I had been to the Disney properties before, from California to Orlando. And so I had a gauge, I had something to compare it to, but Hawaii, I never did. It was just what it was.
So I've got to ask you, Art, you said you were at the Disney in Florida?
Yeah, Walt Disney World. Yeah.
No, the Millennium Falcon thing, that's the one in California, though, isn't it?
They have one there, too. Yeah.
Oh, there's one in Florida, too?
Yeah, it's pretty badass. Yeah.
I did not know that. I thought they only had the Star Wars thing in California. They've got it at both places.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's news to me. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, so if that's a closer park for you, like if you enjoy those parks, you should go. There's been a lot of like negativity about Galaxy's Edge, but for me, I didn't really have a lot of expectations. And I think what one of the main things that they did is they didn't have the e-ticket attraction open when they opened the park. So they only had one ride, and it was called Smuggler's Run, and it was okay. It was average,
Yeah.
It was cool because you kind of ride in the Millennium Falcon and stuff like that. But once you get past the novelty of that, it's like a weird flight simulator / video game.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was kind of punky, but that Rise of the Resistance, the e-ticket attraction, holy shit, man.
That one is good.
That thing's mind blowing, man. It really is. Like, even though, like, I like to see behind the scenes, like work in progress stuff. And even though I knew how a lot of those effects were done, when we were in it, man,
it was that good.
Yeah, you couldn't tell. It was pretty flawless. So, but I think if they would have opened with that and got that kind of
I think they kind of jumped the gun and rushed it out just because they knew there was money to be made. And once you slap Star Wars and you throw the Millennium Falcon out there, people are just going to show up no matter what.
Yeah, well, that's what they thought. That's what they actually went on record saying. But the fact is that it just wasn't the case. But, I think they tried to double dip. I think these people are money grubbing because I think they were going, okay, well, we'll have the B attraction open and the park, and people will go there. But then once we open the other attraction, they'll pay for it again and go to that ride. Oh my gosh, that's bullshit, man.
No, but it's totally the way they think. And that's 100%, I guarantee you, that's what their original plan was to begin with.
Yeah, they were double dipping. It would be like, okay, you got your blue bombshell, right? But to get the blue bombshell, you have to buy the ash can version, or like a mini version of the story.
Or in the second campaign with all the extra goodies on it. And it's like, oh, I didn't have these finished yet, so
right, yeah. So it's like, oh well, if you were no, don't do that.
I would never do that to CG, I promise.
Hey, Clint, everybody in the chat, would you mind if I show off some numbers, man? Black and White has been kicking much butt, and we're going to take some names. And holy crap, man, CG is the best.
It is.
Yeah, so we just turned this over, man. This is 50,512 in 3 weeks, a little under 3 weeks.
That is awesome.
A little over 3 weeks, I should say. We have 10 days left. We're closing in on 600 backers, so we're only 6 away from that. And so I want to let everybody know we got 3 stretch goals opened right now. So we got the 30, the 40, and the 50,000 stretch goals. So you guys got yourself some cool swag and upgrades for the cover. So let me go right into that and show off what you guys are going to get for your hard work. So at the 30K, you guys got that trading card. Plus, Pamela, this was Pamela's suggestion that all the early bird signups and pre-launch signups are going to get the card. Not just the ones that signed up, but just everybody is going to get that trading card. So there's 2 cards that you guys are already going to get. And then the 40K is the Boom Baby, the Inco sticker, which is cool. And then we just at the 50K, we unlocked the upgraded cover. So all the covers in the campaign will be upgraded now to heavy stock paper or cardboard. I guess it is more of a cardboard. And the main book and the variants will have the square bound, like more graphic novel, as they used to call them, format. And so we just put up another commission. We sold that like within minutes.
Nice.
Yeah, so I like to draw for people. I don't have that much time anymore, but these campaigns always it seems like there's an opportunity to do it, and so that's I make it myself available for those commissions. And so then we have the $40 layout. So these are work in progress add-ons. So you can get these in a tier, but you can get these as add-ons as well. So these are the work in progress layouts. This is the first stage, the first visual stage that I take from the written word to actually blocking stuff out layout wise. And so I'm working on this with Joe Fulton, which is he's one of the pontificators here. So
and those layout pages, to me, that's such a cool step as a fan, to see like the artistic progression from like where you got the script, where you do these rough layouts, and then you kind of see that middle step in between the finished page, because it kind of gives you a little bit of the thought process, and like you don't see everything finished off. It's kind of like a real fun kind of bonus for anybody who's kind of like an art fan or like is, a fan of the process of how comics are made.
And I definitely am that. And the thing too is that you'll get to see how this changes from this. Well, you'll get to see it from the written word and how that changes to the physical drawings, and then from the layout to the actual finished production. Because I don't know if you're like me, Clint, when I actually go to finish the page off from this layout stage, I still end up changing things.
Oh, sure.
You get ideas last minute and you incorporate those. So
you'll just see kind of a body pose or like some sort of like little thing where you're like, oh, I can push that pose a little bit more dynamic. I can throw the shoulder out a little bit more. It's the reason for doing that kind of rough layout is it kind of lets you tweak it just that extra bit further to kind of get it to where you really want it to like blast everything off the page.
Yes, it's kind of like they say writing is rewriting. Well, drawing is trying something, erasing, trying something, and erasing. So it's a process as well. And so it's like what you were saying. If you can get something physically down that you're pretty happy with, then when you go to finish the page, you're not as intimidated by a blank space. So you can kind of build on that drawing that you already have. Like you said, make it more dynamic, or sometimes I'm just like, I got to clarify some storytelling points. You know what I mean? So you're like, well, maybe if I change the angle here, the point of the panel will, kind of show more. It'll be more apparent. It'll be more clear. And the older I get, the more I'm like, I want this to be clear. I don't want people to work too much to try to decipher what's going on. I want them to clearly see like what's going on in the panel, because not that I'm a big Jim Shooter like fan of his philosophy of storytelling, but he did tell me once, he's like, if you have to think too much about what you're looking at, then you failed. Like if the reader has
Yeah.
to think about it too much. So they should be able to kind of see it quickly, identify it, and then go to the next panel.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we just added this as well. We added the Inko. That's good ink t-shirt. Yeah, so you guys can pick this up.
That's good ink. I love that. I love the motto, and I love the little guy.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. It's like this retro ink bottle, and it's the mascot for Hack Check Studios. And so this all came out of Comicsgate. So one of the themes that we're going to talk about today, and thank you, Clint, for bringing up the topic, is like Comicsgate and kind of maybe the intimidation for the mainstream to come in and hang out with us. And so one thing that they're really missing out is this group of people that, you know, hang out with us, because basically Inka was born in the live stream. You know, I just pitched it. I just came up with this idea. The next thing I know, D Geek Art is doing this drawing. And so then one thing led to another. And now we're actually making merch, Inko merch. So it's very cool. And if you guys want a better shot of Inko, here, let me go here to the updates. And we got, where is it? It's right here, I think. Yeah. So this is Inko. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, you guys, Black and White, you know, we're 10 days away from closing the first 30. I do believe we are going to roll this over into another, but I'm not sure if it's going to be 30. And when we roll this over, we're going to act like we're just launching the campaign. So we're going to bring back some of the early bird ideas and some of the exclusive ideas. And we're still kind of debating whether we're going to bring that 72-hour line variant. A lot of people have asked about that. So we're thinking, Pamela and I are thinking about, you know, all these things. And we just want to kind of make, like, some people just kind of try to sneak it into the second 30. We want to go right into it with like a big party, you know, make it big, new stuff, you know, all that kind of.
Get the excitement and all the fun going again.
Yeah, all that. Oh, we just got a backer. Thank you so much. So we're 5 away from 600 backers, and we're at 50,564. So thank you guys so very much.
Let's get in the chat.
Who? Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, Todd actually made it.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, Todd.
I like how Todd does this thing like a horse that's being tamed with, like, he always does this thing. Like, is it because of the wire on the headphones?
Oh, maybe I kind of just get it moved where it's comfortable.
You know how, like, I don't know if you guys ever rode a horse, but when you grab the bridle or whatever it is, they kind of do this thing with it.
You can fight it a little bit.
All right. Well, we actually got Todd. I thought we'd get you at the last 15 minutes of the show, but this is good, man.
I jumped in at like 8:06 or something like that.
Yeah, but you know what, Clint and I
he's been shouting in the chat for 20 minutes.
No, he hasn't. Has he really?
I don't think we've been on for 20 minutes.
Well, time flies when Todd's in the green room. So how you been, brother?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, this is kind of the wacky show that Todd and I came up with. How long ago, Todd?
Oh, jeez. Oh, about 2 years ago, actually.
Yeah, this thing's been going for about 2 years now, and we're still getting new people in, like Clint and things like that. So there's always new blood coming in, and new points of view, and new things to pontificate on. So Clint, why don't you lay out what you were thinking as far as the topic, and then we can chime in.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of obvious to a lot of people, especially CG fans. I think there's a lot of comics pros out there that, like, I guarantee you, comics pros are paying attention to what's going on in Comicsgate. They like see these campaigns and how good they're doing, and the money that creators are making, and the being able to do your own characters, your own storylines, like create your own stuff. Like, big two Marvel and DC comic creators are seeing all this and watching it. But there's this stigma attached, you know. It's like, if you go CG, well, what's that going to do the rest of your career? Our editors is like Marvel going to blacklist me? I mean, we everybody talked about Joe Bennett this week, and it's like these pro creators are interested in doing this stuff. They know their comic book fans are out here, but they also don't want to get blacklisted by Marvel and DC if there's like, whatever the head honcho is saying, there's like the undercurrent of, oh, if you go CG, guess what? You're done, that kind of thing. And
before we go any further,
sure.
What do you think the stigma is in a nutshell? I'm going to ask you, Clint, and I'm going to ask Todd as well. So what do you think?
I think it's 100% social media created. It's like I don't think they're upper echelon Marvel or DC people that would be like, if you go and do this, we're never going to hire you again. I don't think that's what it is. But I think on the lower end of editorial, people who are, trying to keep their job, looking at which way political winds are blowing, it's like not everything's stable for them. They are fearful of that SJW Twitter mafia that will come after you. And like, I don't know when editors became scared of people on Twitter, but it exists. Like, they are 100% worried about some nobody that's on Twitter that has maybe 1,000 followers starting to like, do campaign against them. And like, people on Twitter have no power over Marvel and DC. Like, they're a small minority.
They only have the power that Marvel gives them. Like
exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing I don't understand about this. Is like Marvel and DC are actually, creating this. It's not these people. Like, you can just choose to ignore these people.
Block them out, and it's like it's maybe 1,000 people out there.
Yeah,
it's like if you're looking to sell a book, you're looking for 100,000 people, not 1,000. But these editors, for whatever reason, decided to pay attention and lend credence to them, and it made their voice louder. But even today, like, even at its worst, like, these people do not have the power to like raise or lower the sales numbers on your average comic book. They're a small amount of people, but these editors, they grew up on Twitter, they grew up with social media, they run their lives around it, and like, this was not what comics was about before Twitter.
So, like, in a nutshell, you think it's social media. I
think that's a large aspect of it. I don't think it's all of it.
Well, I just kind of wanted to like try to nutshell, like, but your overall position is kind of social media and the backlash or the heat that it can bring.
Yeah, editors in their 20s and 30s fear Twitter. Like, they don't want, to get blazed up on Twitter.
Well, I want to see what Todd has to say. So what do you think, kind of in a nutshell? We're just trying to, like, I just want to give context to everything, and then we'll get more deeper into it. But I kind of want to give context so people understand. So what do you think is, like, the main reason why people aren't, like, maybe more mainstream artist writers aren't coming over to CG?
Because I do think they're told if they go, there is no going back. Because I've seen the fights between CG and like you and Fabian Nicienza and stuff like that. These are real. So these are people still of influence and still of, great respect and stuff. So there is that. I do think there is that stigma out there that there are some people that would like to go, well, I probably make more money over there, but I'll never be able to go back. Mm-hmm. So let me see how this goes for another year. Maybe I'll go, So I do think there's a few that'll trickle through and come eventually, but I don't think your buddy there would ever get to do any more Batman.
You mean Joe Bennett?
No.
Arent?
No. The Alien Alamo. Graham Nolan.
Graham Nolan. Yeah, well,
Oh,
Graham's career was pretty much ended. He talks about like the Dito.
Ageism, right? I get all that. That's true stuff, right? Like there are great artists out there that don't get to draw maybe but once in a while when they want to do like a annual or some kind of retro kind of thing, like even Jerry Ordway. But Jerry Ordway will never come over here.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Jerry Ordway. Like, even though he hates CG and has spoken out against it, I don't understand why that guy isn't doing a monthly book. Like, holy shit! Like, I mean, if he wanted to, I don't know if he wants to or not. But at least, like, if I was an editor at any of these companies, holy shit, getting Jerry Ordway to do even a mini series, that would be. And I'm not just speaking from a guy that thinks Jerry's awesome, and in the day that was very impressive. I'm talking about when you compare it to the artwork of today.
Oh God,
it still stands head and shoulders.
It basically came back around and go, wow, we had a dip in the artwork, not completely, right? You have a lot of these guys from South America and Central America that are really, really great artists, but there is American artists who sort of gravitated towards that weird style, Kenny, whatever it is. So they're very simple, they're very basic, and so now a guy like Jerry Ordway, when you see him, is like, wow, it's refreshing. He's really good. Even a Tom Grummett. Now,
oh my God,
I don't know if I go that far.
There's one thing about these guys that we've talked about before. They can draw anything in any position from any angle. And that can't be done by just every artist. No. I guarantee there's so many artists out there that can't draw everything from every angle. Yeah. But those guys, those Tom Grummets and Jerry Ordways.
Jerry Ordway's an amazing artist.
Claudio Castellini.
Right. There's a thing like people say, oh, well, they're old school. I would argue, since Jerry's kind of, on the table right now, Jerry was always old school. Like, his rendering techniques, all that stuff was always old school. So he was never in sync with what was happening at the time.
Even when he was hot on Superman, it was still a retro look.
Because it was very like soft, like very like featherly hatches and stuff like that. Like, I never really wanted to ink him because I didn't want to ink like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing against him, but I didn't want to kind of break out the brush and kind of go into that old school, mindset. But having said that, it still was very unique. I think it still felt fresh and new. It wasn't like he was just aping something from the 50s or whatever, but it was new. It was unique. And I still think it would be refreshing in today's market. Like Todd said, he understands it on a level that not a lot of people do these days, and just the amount of work that he's putting into it, I think it would stand out. It would be head and shoulders above the rest. So
definitely has a cinematic quality, and I think the same can be said about Tom Grummett. Yeah. But there are guys like Ron Lim, whose style's really outdated, and he really hasn't. He was never the upper echelon of these guys that could draw anything from every angle and make it look perfect, and you couldn't find, whether it's fudged or not, you couldn't find the mistake.
Well, Ron Lim, just to address that, Ron Lim was always a workhorse. Ron Lim's thing was he could do 2 books a month. So there are guys that fit into those categories, like Mark Bagley and Ron Lim, like guys that can just get things done, monthly, and they can do a large amount of work. So, I don't think Ron Lim was ever like that guy. You know what I mean? He was always kind of the workhorse type. So do you think like that those guys? Well, I haven't really, addressed the question. So for me, I think that the reason people aren't coming over, the reason these things aren't happening, is because I do think there is, like, in life, in the real world in general, there's kind of this shift over, and there's like this political. Not that it's overly political. Let me see if I can click Clint back in. Well, hey Clint, why don't you check out and then come back in? I'll bop you back in. your stuff's buffering. So for me, oh, there he is. Okay. Let me get
I'm not
rid
sure
of
what happened.
Yeah, there you are. Yeah, but for me, I think that it's happening universally. I think that there's people that if you are at all conservative or leaning conservative, or if you're like part of the older regime of comic books, they just, hey, we got Bob. Bob, what's up?
What's up? Yeah, hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully my connection maintains itself, man. I'm broadcasting from work, so
Yeah, it's like what Art was just getting to. There's like two fronts that they're trying to take out creators on. They're trying to wash out conservative creators, and they're trying to wash out older creators. And
Yeah,
it's
for me-
job
so for me-
discrimination.
Right. Well, for me, it's bigger than just comic books because we see it in life. Like there's this new like you can't love your country anymore.
God.
If you hang the American flag out in front of your house, you're jingoistic. You're a flag waver. You're like some kind of redneck, and it just isn't the case. Like when did this shift over? Or like our founding fathers aren't great men anymore because they own slaves. You know what I mean? Like there's all of this stuff now that exists, and so you can't like this because of one thing. So I think there's this whole like contempt for the past. I think there's this whole like it's mostly in the progressive, the more extreme SJW progressive mindset that they're just out to kind of eradicate anything that was before them.
They got a little bit of taste of power, and then they're just going for the throat. They're going for the jugular. It's like you give a progressive an inch, they're gonna try and slaughter everything that they're against, and they don't hold a middle ground. They're not gonna be moderate. They're gonna be extremist, and that's what's going on. They got a little bit of a taste for it. Hopefully, the pendulum swings back quickly, but like we're in the middle of those progressives getting that extreme swing out to they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah, some serious times. So Bob, are you kind of caught up where we're at? So I'm kind of asking everybody in a nutshell to just say why they think mainstream is intimidated by Comicsgate.
Well, ultimately it comes down to the fact that they're already competing against they're competing against video games, they're competing against movies, they're competing against streaming. They've already got all this other competition for your entertainment dollar, and then now you have this alternative to them. This idea that all these creators that they want to come work for them for pennies on the dollar can go somewhere else and do just as well, if not better. So it ultimately comes down to the fact that, So it ultimately comes down to the fact that they're afraid of losing this talent pool. That even though a lot of these guys, they don't want to keep them on the payroll, every once in a while they want to be able to pull them back in whenever they want when they need a boost. They want to be the whole idea is to be the only game in town, and they're not the only game in town anymore, and it scares them.
I agree with that. I that there's this viable platform now where fuckers like us, man, can just blaze our own trail. I mean, Black and White is over 50K now. Like, holy shit, man. Aaron Lopresti comes from DC Comics, signs up to Comicsgate, and he's pushing 80K right now. This is amazing. And like you said, Bob, this scares the living shit.
Well, it's not just that. A lot of these guys that are kind of on the fence are out here testing the waters to see if they can basically say, "Hey, screw it, we're going our own way."
Yeah,
a lot of these guys that have kind of been like a silent majority and whatnot have been kind of staying under the thumb. Are really the more of them that come out here and test the waters and realize they don't have to do that, the less and less of a hold on this that they have.
There's a couple of comic creators out there, and I'm not going to name names or anything. I don't want to screw anybody over, but there's a couple of comic creators that are big two comic book creators that have tested the water, not claim CG, but just wanted to put a project out there, see if they could court the CG audience without claiming CG, and you know, they've kind of been, you know, dipping their toe in the water, but until you really fully claim CG, you're not going to get the benefits out of it, because CG fans like can sniff that bullshit out.
Yeah, and that's
and also, why should you benefit? You know, like there's like the professionals. There's kind of like a new group of professionals, really established guys that have names that are coming in. And I not only do I, you know, I'm an older guy, obviously, but I also feel like an elder statesman with CG now, because, you know, I talk to them. It's like they're just taking a lot of this stuff for granted, and it's like, no, man, there was some crazy ass shit that was going on, you know, 3 years ago. Like there was some, you know, 2017 or whenever it was, like there was some hard fought battles and stuff like that. So this wasn't that easy. I think right now it's almost becoming more like kind of commercialized. It's becoming tamed, you know, like comics is like, it's almost seems like, oh yeah, it's a viable option. Before, it scared the shit out of people, you know what I mean? Like on a level that it's not now. Like now they're just kind of hedging their bets. They're going, oh, well, Marvel and DC might not hire me back. But they're also looking at, like with the COVID and the lockdowns and all that other stuff, they're starting to see that as like, that might not be there for them in the future as well. There might not be that kind of employment for them. So they are looking at other options. And then they're looking at us and they're going, well, this is a pretty viable option. But you know, if I go here, will I ever work for these? You know, it's just kind of hedging your bets. You know,
totally.
You want this, but at the same time, you want this other thing.
I think that's true for a lot of them, but I also think that some of them are seeing, you know, like this. They're afraid that if they do, you know, like associate with CG, they're going to lose that other carrot over here. But I think a lot of them are testing the water to see, okay, without this, I can get to this point, and if I can get to this point by myself, it's worth it for me to then, you know, associate myself with CG.
So what you're saying is
get that extra push,
like them not committing to CG but doing independent projects. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think like we see some people that are kind of like they're kind of satelliting Comicsgate, and not actually, you know, stating it. Because I think, because here's the thing, not everybody's a crusader, and a lot of people are they're legitimately, you know, they're just super gun shy about it. But I think there are some creators that are testing the waters just to see, okay, if I do declare Comicsgate, how far can this thing take me?
Right. Yeah.
You know, so they're testing the water by themselves to see where they're at, and then thinking, okay, well, if I declare Comicsgate, I can double what I got on my own.
Right. Well, I'm just gonna say this, like anybody that's thinking that way, I've been doing this, you know, almost 4 decades now. There's trends in everything, but there's trends in comic books as well. And usually the trend will go, like if it's a strong enough trend, it'll last 8 to 10 years. You'll have 8 to 10 years. So I think, you know, Image Comics isn't the Image Comics of the 90s. You know what I mean? Like things come and go, these shifts.
Image Comics is a shell of what it was.
Right. So I think that I do believe if Comicsgate can stay around for even another 2 years, this will enter the history books. This will be a part of comics history. What we're doing right now, I firmly agree. I think that's factual, but we're still a couple years away. Like right now, I think they could sweep us under the carpet, right? But once you get there, you know, and there's a substantial amount of time, it becomes undeniable. It becomes completely undeniable. And so even if it's just a footnote, it will be in there. But having said that, you still have a trend. So you still have maybe 10 years. So let's just say hypothetically, you know, within the next year or so, you know, Comicsgate just gets like 2-3 times as big as it is now. It becomes a viable place for the mainstream. It's still only going to last maybe 10 years. So these guys are looking at everything wrong. That's what I'm trying to say. They're looking at it wrong because it's 10 years. If you're in for the long haul, who gives a shit? If Marvel and DC are still around after that, they'll have you back. They'll have a whole new regime
In
by
10
then.
years, in 10 years, editors at Marvel and DC aren't going to look twice at whether you're CG or not. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is
let me read this. Hey Rick, thank you so much for the $4.99. And all he says is "Hail Pontificators." Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rick.
There you go.
Super chat.
Hail Rick.
I think,
chat.
and I think you're absolutely 100% right about that. And but I also think that, like, what you're saying is correct. That in 10 years, I think in 10 years, all of this social justice stuff is going to have run its course.
Yeah. Oh,
and we're going to and people are going to be looking back on this time period, going, "What the hell was going on?"
It's going to be like one of those end of the year shows where you're look back on the 90s, or and it's like look back on the 2020s. It's like, COVID, look at the social justice warriors. What were they thinking?
Look at the kind of time period where we went absolutely freaking insane.
Look at everybody wearing those tacky masks and bitching on Twitter.
Like a lot of those people that are basically gatekeeping the mainstream, they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
So,
but it's kind of like what Clinton was saying earlier about like these mainstreams placating these loudmouths on Twitter, but they're also placating these activists, comic book artists. They're more activists than they are actually comic book artists. They don't love it. Like we're talking about also longevity, like 10 years from now, like Kelly Sue DeConnick, like these people, are they going to be around in 10 years? Like
Kelly Sue DeConnick isn't around right now.
Well, you know what I'm talking about, that type, of people. She's the only one I can think of. But because I don't think when I got in comics, I don't know about you, you've been doing it for a while, Clint, and I know Todd's heart's been in comics, but he just kind of came into actually, creating comics and putting them out and getting them in front of people with Florida Man, and he's got another project coming along, but we're in it. We're not going anywhere. Like, I don't know what I would do if comics went away tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, what would I do? Would I just start, flipping burgers? Like, I just don't know what I would do, because all my adult life has been at the service of telling stories, visual stories in comic books. So I don't think they're as committed to the art form.
No, this is, there's such a segment of writers and editors that come into comics looking at it as a stepping stone towards movies. Writers and editors, every one of them wants to be a screenwriter. They don't want to be, not everybody. It didn't used to be this way. Like, it used to be the fans would write stories, would submit to editors, and would become comic book writers, and because they were fans of comics. The movie success really kind of hurt comics in a way that it brought in these people that wanted to get out to Hollywood, didn't give a shit about comics, were writers, were editors, and it was solely a stepping stone towards getting into Hollywood, getting into production roles, getting into screenwriting roles. And that, along with the whole social justice warrior movement and Twitter, like, those two things combined, and it just, like, it watered down the talent base of comic book writing so much. And we're still seeing the results of it now.
We've talked about it on this show that
multiple times.
Like for DC Comics, the doom of DC Comics, for me, and I think most of us agreed, that when they went from New York City, publishing house in New York City, Time Warner Building, and they came over to Burbank and started trying to woo Hollywood, I knew it was a mistake, because I knew that these guys, I've dealt with some of these Hollywood people. They don't have any respect for you. They don't care. And the only way you're going to be able to compete with them, let me finish, Todd, then. The only way you're going to be able to compete with them is, and the only thing they understand is power. The only thing they understand is money and success. So DC Comics goes over there. They overextend themselves with this big office. You can see the Warner Brothers lot, from the windows. It's beautiful. It's great. Multiple floors. But very, very expensive. And I knew that Diane Nelson, I knew Dan DiDio, I knew that Jim Lee, and even Jeff Johns we're going to make a mark in Hollywood. We're going to show them that we're players with this big office. With they have an archives. They have like all the books. They have like a library in there. They have video games in the front. Like it's fantastic looking. But I think they were trying to woo Hollywood. And so then it kind of worked. You know, they got a couple movies, but they weren't good movies because none of those people understood the comic book. There was no Kevin Feige to oversee things. By the time Jeff Johns got into power, he just became the scapegoat and they crucified him. You know what I mean? There was nobody like that. And then at this point, DC is just in shambles. You know, it all failed. All those guys are fired. The only one that's still there is Jim Lee. And to me, nothing against you, Jim. I think you're a survivor and you've managed to stay on top for, you know, decades now. But they don't want you to compete against them. If they got rid of Jim, the first thing Jim would do is he'd go over to Marvel and Marvel would just kick ass, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He's still big enough name that he could do that, make headlines, all this stuff. So yeah, I just think that like what you were saying, Clint, I think this Hollywood thing it was kind of it sent out the wrong message for some people. They forgot about the comic books and then they got into film. Todd, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
At the same time that you're saying that they did that, they moved west, new people were in charge. They left the brain trust back here in Connecticut and in New York. The guys that had 40 years, the guys that would still, you don't get it. These guys don't retire. You don't retire from comics. You just eventually, you die.
You know, eventually fade away and die, yeah.
The Paul Cooperbergs, the Carlins, the line editors, and the brain trusts that knew, you know, they weren't too old to do this. They knew how trends went and how the heroes started getting grayer and things like that. So they just, you know, they maintained the comic line and it was still successful. You come out here, you leave all those guys behind. They'll go, I'm too old to move out there. I don't want to go out there. And boom, you left your brain trust here in this area, in the New England area. So it was really a dumb move all around.
And not only that, but I think we're beginning to see that Hollywood movie bubble is starting to burst.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, in
like
DC,
They throw spaghetti anyway. They're spaghetti throwers, DC. They've thrown so much spaghetti at the wall. It's ridiculous. They have no clue.
DC
like I went and saw Shang-Chi the day before yesterday. There was 3 people in the theater.
Oh my gosh.
Me, my friend, and one other guy. And that's it.
You brought the party to the movie.
I saw someone posted and they said you know, all the websites, all the movie sites are like pushing up how well Shang-Chi did.
It's not.
But if you compare it against how the other Marvel movies did, it's like third to the worst of Marvel movies coming out.
And the excuse of the pandemic is beginning to wear out because you had other movies that did extremely well.
Yeah.
You know?
Black Widow did better, and it was released on Disney Plus at the same time.
Black Widow was considered largely a failure.
Yeah, and it didn't do as good as that, and wasn't released on Disney Plus. So
because the thing is, you still need quality. You still need these things to feel authentic. You still need these things to work. And what they're doing now, I knew it. I knew it when Marvel. Okay, Marvel had the brain trust, right? They had the Bendis, they had Miller, they had Brevoort, you know, they had Quesada, they had these guys, right? And so they're plastering in the credits, and they're making sure that everybody in the fandom, comics fandom, knows these things, right? And so I knew these guys were they were tokens. They were just tokens because what Marvel wanted to do is they wanted so much to legitimize because they knew the comic fandom, if they got behind this and they put their seal of approval on it, it was going to succeed. And the reason they know that is because George Lucas with Star Wars brought that first movie to San Diego Comic-Con and debuted it there. And it was the Star Trek fans that supported that movie. It was the Star Trek fans that made that a phenomenon. No one knew what the hell this was. And so the thing is, and then Harry Potter, the fan base, and then, J.K. Rowling was smart enough that she made sure that she took control of it and that she was able to manage her own franchise. So then Hollywood starts seeing if you can, these are like how they look. If they can placate the fandom, if they can placate these people, then those people will give them credibility. And once the fandom gives them credibility, then it feels authentic. It feels real. It feels like, oh, they're doing this thing justice. And so Marvel knew that going into it. But as soon as they were able to break away from the comics, they did.
They're actually very intelligent, because you think Iron Man came out in 2009, and they planned everything out to hold the interest of the comic book fans, the faithful, change things just enough that they could do what they wanted, but keep to the spirit of it. And through that time, they created all these movies that all the Marvel movies have these basic beats that they hit.
Right.
And they've cultivated an entire generation of fans that will continue to watch this content as long as they hit those beats. So because you can remember, 2009, kids who were 10 years old in 2009, they're in their early 20s now. So they're going to continue to be fans of this thing and follow it, and they'll wean their kids on it as well. So Marvel, I think they're going to have at least a core fan base for at least the next 5-10 years.
Oh yeah.
So as they do these massive sweeping changes that they've been wanting to do, and more and more people don't like them, they'll still have at least that core faithful that will hold on through a certain amount of time. So they'll continue to do what they're doing for at least another 4 or 5 years.
But unless they're willing to take a chance, it's just going to stagnate, and
they're going to be able to inject the Fantastic Four and the X-Men back into things, and that's going to help things too, because nobody's going to show up for Shang-Chi or Eternals movies for 4 years.
Right.
Shang-Chi and the Eternals, that is the epitome of filler stuff until we get the next big thing going.
Okay, so we're getting a little off topic. So as far as CG intimidation, like mainstream intimidation, do you think what do you think the main thing is for, let's say, the average writer artist? What do you think the main hang up is? Do you think they're just afraid that they're never going to work again?
What I would be interested in seeing, and I don't know that it'll be happen because I don't know if anybody's got enough balls to do it, but somebody big at Marvel or DC, instead of going to Image, instead of being Scott Snyder and going to Substack, know that you can sell comics at Marvel, you can sell comics at DC, you're that type of dude, and then come to CG and be like, hey, CG's comic book fans, I'm a comic book artist, comic book writer, I'm doing stuff at Marvel and DC, but I also got this creator-owned stuff, and I love CG fans because they're comic book fans. I think there's gonna be a comic book creator that's gonna do that. That's gonna be like, I'm big enough. I'm the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and I see what's going on over in CG. Those guys love comics. I'm going to go do my creator-owned stuff at CG, and I'm going to do Marvel and DC stuff because, editors aren't going to turn me down because I'm that guy. There's every once in a while, there's the comic book creator that comes along that's just bigger than the industry. And the industry needs people like that. They need the.
Who would that guy be?
Who would that be?
Well, we already have Ethan Van Sciver. There's Shane Davis. There's there's Ken.
I'm not saying it's going to happen in 6 months. I'm saying that I think it's going to happen. I'm in a 3-year window. There's.
Well, I'm not challenging you, Clint. I'm just.
No, I get it.
It was a genuine. Like I was like, does Clint have? Do you have an idea in mind? Do you have an idea?
There's one guy. There's the one guy who dipped his toe around it. Again, I'm not going to name names, but like dipped his toe around it, but didn't go balls out. Like I'm looking for that. There's going to be a comic book creator that's going to be like, I'm just going to do it.
I mean, what level are we talking here? Are we talking like a Dave Finch or
like
a J. Scott Campbell or
I mean
I'm talking like stardom level here.
Yeah, like those dudes are big stars, but not like I think it'll be somebody that hasn't been around as long as them that is looking to kind of blow up to the next level.
Okay, so somebody who's like really big right now,
or becoming big. Becoming big right now, and it'll be big in like a year or two, and like
so they don't have that pedigree.
Yeah, like they're looking to like make themselves blow up even bigger, whether it's contract negotiations or like one of the big two isn't giving them what they want, and they've got the stones to say, here, let me show you what I can do on my own, and then like come over to CG and blow themselves up 10 times to what
you know, it'd be awesome. Like just balls.
Like that's gonna be a career move for somebody that's coming up the ladder right now, and CG will jump all over it.
Well, I was just gonna elaborate on your idea. Like if that was to happen, that would be pretty cool, because then because people do that. Like I think that Sean Gordon Murphy did his own thing and then came back to DC, and there was kind of that, but people thought he should have done way better. Like that should have been $1 million campaign.
And that's because he was dipping his toe in the pond and not diving in.
Right. So
these kind of guys I was talking about
earlier. Not working, of it not really effectively working. But this is just a hypothetical based on what you said. So if that was to happen, let's just say it was Sean Gordon Murphy that did it successfully. Do you think, and then he went back to DC to negotiate an even better contract? Like there's this thing about like Marvel and DC. Like if Marvel's treating you bad, you go over to DC, they give you a better rate, and then you kind of play the companies off of each other.
Oh, absolutely.
So it would be interesting if CG was that alternative.
That's
you know what I mean? Like if it was like if you worked at DC, you come over to CG like instead of Marvel or whatever, and then you go back.
One guy does it, and it blows up because like CG jumps on it and loves them for coming over and giving them some love. Every other comic book creator is going to start drooling at the mouth and like, oh, okay. So there is this other option, and it is the hardcore comic fans of CG.
Yeah,
like that'll change the playing field a lot.
Yeah, and then there are some like the reverse. So there's like Kanan White, and there's Rob Willis, and there's some like CG kind of born talent. And I think like Kanan, I think could have been really huge here, but I just don't think he didn't have the belief in it. He didn't really have
a very mercurial person.
Yeah, and so I think he wanted that acclaim of the mainstream. So I think he kind of went into that direction. And Rob Willis could definitely be one of those guys that did the same. But having said that, I also think that it's probably it wouldn't work as well, because I just don't think Marvel and DC are the Marvel and DC that those guys grew up thinking that they still are. Like they're not those companies anymore. So I would ultimately, if like I had a conversation with like, let's just say this is all hypothetical. Rob called me up and was like, DC's offering me Batman. And I would just say, if you always wanted to draw Batman, that was your goal as a kid, whatever, take it. But ultimately CG is a better place for you.
Yeah,
Todd, you're muted.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
I think you're more apt to see some of these guys who are about to age out. Ageism is one of those things. It happens, and you don't know when it's going to happen. But you might see a Doug Mankey or somebody like that come over here because he's sort of aging out of the mainstream.
Yeah, and the thing is about that is that I feel a little bit like I have to defend this because it's like they age out. I just think there isn't an industry for them anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's weird. Like I can't really explain it, but like for me, I was still viable at Marvel and DC. I really wasn't aging out. So there are some people that aren't feeling that. But at the same time, like, what are they? If they're going to have a longer career, they have to start looking that maybe this company isn't going to be there for them in the next 10 years. That maybe they need to start doing something that will take care of themselves in the long run. And so, you know, I don't like to always look at it as like, oh, well, they don't have a viable career anymore, so they're going to come over to CG. I just don't think that that's always the case, because I think like Shane Davis is still viable. I was still viable. I think Ethan Van Sciver is still. I think all these guys are still viable.
Oh, yeah.
I just think it's a mindset. It's a mindset that the mainstream, they don't want it, or they don't want because of the political, you know, like, because, you know, we're a little bit more conservative leaning, or that we get paid a lot more money than, you know, the Tumblr artists, you know, or whatever. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like Jim Starlin. Jim Starlin just did his Dreadstar Omnibus and made like $120,000 on crowdfunding. So you got so Jim Starlin's been around forever. He's still,
but he also has bad eyes. He has bad eyes, so he's not gonna. Yeah. He's not going to be coming into.
Jim Starlin patted Art T-Bear on the top of the head when he was showing his portfolio around in the 70s.
Yeah, but I'm saying that like a guy like him who's been around that long, he could still come on here. He put out an omnibus and made $120,000. Yeah, so he still has some pull. So these guys, like you said about aging out, I don't think they're quite to the point of aging out. I think it's more that they just don't fit the bill of what the people that are in charge want.
Well, they also have to understand.
But they are eventually going to age out, though.
Well, sometimes it happens a different way, right? Like, for instance, I'll use Doug Mankey again. Well, there's guys that are doing books for less than he's been around for a while. He demands a certain amount of money. I'm not going to go backwards, right? But there are guys coming up behind him from other countries or whatever. They're working for less. So I'm not saying he's aging out because of his age, but he's sort of aging out because of his value.
He's priced. Yeah, no, I understood what you said. But I do think I'm sorry. I do think though that there are some guys that are just physically aging out. You know, guys like George Perez.
Well, George's eyes are bad, I think.
Well, yeah, George. Yeah, well, that's due to aging, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, well, if you can't do it, you can't do the job. Then you can't do the job. It's that simple. But I was just getting a little bit defensive about it because I just don't think that it's always the case, because I still think these guys are viable. For me, and we talk about it on Pontificators all the time. Marvel, DC, mainstreams, advertise your books, sell more books. If it's about money and then you're penny pinching with the talent, screw you. You're looking at it the wrong damn way. Yeah. Sell more books, make more money. That's your job. That's not my job. My job is to give you good quality storytelling. That's what I'm hired to do. Most of the time, people like myself are doing that. They're holding up their end of the bargain. It's the Marvel and DCs that are letting the creators down because they're not getting out. They're not making new inroads with different places to sell, stores, shop fronts, different new ways to expand their market. They're not doing that, and that is why CG is still kicking their ass and will always kick their ass at this moment in time, because we are doing what we're doing right now. We are the voice of these IPs. We're out in front of people. We're talking about these things with passion, with love, with all of this. And I know there's people that get hung up on the community, but we're a group. We're a group of like-minded people that want those type of comic books. You know what I mean? They don't want SJW comics. They don't want agenda comics. They just want good, clean action adventure comics, just fun stuff. That's all they want. And you know what? That's why I got into business. That's why I got into business, because that's what I loved as a kid, and that's what I still love as an adult. And that's just the truth of it. And just to hammer it home, Marvel and DC will never be able to do what we're doing because they would have to pay the talent to do this. We're doing it voluntarily. We're doing this just because we see the greater good. It's all mutually beneficial. It's a win-win scenario. Nowhere in time or history has comic books been like this. There is a group of people that are just agreeing to do this, to promote each other's books, not to be petty about like, I don't want to promote your book because it's going to take money away from me. Hell, like right now, there are some powerful books that I'm competing against, and we're all freaking doing good. It's like, what is that? The tide
rising tide lifts all ships.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
100%.
But like to touch on what Todd was talking about guys like George Perez, like guys who are like these true elder statesmen who are. Why aren't you putting them in? Why aren't you cultivating those guys to become a new brain trust, like he was talking about? Why aren't you cultivating guys like George Perez is so beloved? Use him in like a Stan Lee role or something like that. Have this guy teach people how to do this thing.
You guys are talking George Perez. How about John Byrne? How about
John Byrne?
How about the X-Men, the Forgotten, or the X-Men stuff? He's been just fan drawing.
That stuff is dope.
You know who would be
CB Cebulski couldn't make the deal to get him to publish that stuff through Marvel. Like that stuff is gorgeous.
Well, you know who would be great? Who would be great is Chris Claremont. I think as a voice, like Chris, because John is still a little bit of a controversial character. He's a little bit of a fireball.
John's difficult.
Yeah, like I don't know if you'd want that. George actually would be cool.
George would be good. Chris Claremont
and his personality.
Yeah, the Simmonsons, like Simeon Seven just said.
Oh, Walt and Louise. Yeah. Like there's a bunch of great comics veterans that would be. Yeah, the fill in that Stan Lee role, it would be fun, and comics fans would love that. Yeah,
or just that, like Todd said, like they left that brain trust behind when they all moved to the West Coast. Build a new one. Yeah. You've got all these people who are still willing to work and
but you need leaders. You need people like
and you have to be
the heads of Marvel and DC. Are not interested in cultivating these ideas. Like
you're trying to create another mentor system, which was there, right? When you talk about the bullpen and things like that, that was like mentoring. That was like,
exactly.
You're not perfect at this, but we'll get you there. And so you're going to do this for now. You're going to do corrections or whatever. Yes, it was there, and yes, it'd be great if it was again. And you're talking about guys that would probably love to do something like that and take that kind of a role. There was a guy, right? Wasn't it Sergio Chirillo? Wasn't he the sort of the art guy who looked over all the art and stuff?
Yeah. His name wasn't Sergio.
Like him and Klaus Janson.
Mark Chirillo.
Mark, right?
Oh yeah, and they axed him, and everybody was pissed. I met Mark a couple times. Awesome dude. Great creative, very supportive of artists, and just a great guy. And
Ken Lopez.
That was one of the first guys Marvel got rid of.
Yeah, Ken Lopez was the guy who looked over all the lettering and hired the letterers and stuff like that.
You know why this stuff isn't going to happen, and it was happening when I was still there. I don't. The editors have no power. They haven't for a long time. They're just puppets and
they're glorified secretaries.
Yeah, it's like on high. There's these puppet masters, and it was DeDito, it's Casada, it's these different types, and they're basically just micromanaging everything from on high. And that's also why these books start shipping late and they start breaking up, teams and stuff like that, because everything had to go. Instead of the editor making a decision in the here and now, when there's a problem, they have to get back to you. So it could be later that day or it could be the next day. And because they have to run it on high. And I'll tell you, if you're going to run a company like that, you better be really damn good at your job, which we obviously saw they're not, because everything fell apart. Everything fell apart because they didn't want to give up the power. They didn't want to give up the money. They didn't want to give up the influence.
They don't want to create a new them.
Yeah, so even though the writing was on the wall, you're destroying these companies. It doesn't matter because it becomes a cash grab for these guys. They don't give a shit about the company. They don't give a shit about the product. All they care about is their own careers. That's all they care about. And when I was started in the comic book industry, there was nothing like that because there was no Hollywood. There was nothing to aspire beyond that. This was it. So all editors, publishers, presidents, all these guys, their bottom line was always just make good comics. Let's have fun. Let's make good comics. Because where else were they going to go? You know what I mean? This was it. And so now I think,
Quesada saw his name in like the Daredevil movie, and it was just like, oh, look at me.
Well, that's what happened with Jim Lee and Wildstorm. Jim Lee, he's so cultivated that, and let me make it clear, I love Jim Lee as an artist.
I love Jim Lee too.
I think he's one of the 5 best ever.
Yeah, I love Jim Lee too, but he doesn't draw anything now that isn't tied to a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, but that started with that's why Wildstorm died on the vine. Because he was cultivating that Hollywood crowd.
Well, he didn't know how to sell. He didn't know how to sell books.
He's not a good businessman.
He doesn't.
Well, I disagree.
He is a good businessman
for himself.
But I always say Jim's good at taking care of Jim. Like he's not good like the studio or this because like everybody understood. Just renumbering Wildcats, we're going to go into a renumbering system. That was like really his basic idea of how to get attention again. And then if you look at early DC, when he became, more in charge, what he was doing was just kind of New 52 or rebranding or a new #1 or whatever it is.
Draw lines on Superman and Batman's costumes.
Well, these things are all just gimmicks. They're not substantial. They're nothing.
Armor Clint. Get it right, jeez.
But you know what I'm saying? Like they got really good at taking care of themselves, like ambition for themselves. So these are guys that shouldn't be running these companies because the greater good is not being served.
Perfect.
Well, and that's something that Jim once Jim got in power, he absolutely 100% made sure that there was never going to be another him, as long as he was around.
Yeah,
there was never going to be anybody on his level.
There's not going to be another superstar. Yeah, there's not going to be another superstar. Yeah. And also, just to your point, Bob, one of the clear ways of doing that is a substantial run on a title. And they made sure that wasn't going to happen anymore.
I can only think of 2 people that have been on a book for more than like 20, 30 issues. And that's Greg Capullo. Yep, that's Greg, and that's Tony Daniels.
Yeah, Greg's the closest to what Jim was.
And the reason they have to do that is because they know that Greg would leave in a heartbeat and then he would be their competitor. So
and that's what's happening now. I mean, Greg's off with Scott, and they saw the writing on the wall at DC is like, we hit the top and they're going to keep us from going any further. And you don't leave if you're getting the money you want. And I'm guessing they weren't getting the money they want. So
I'll tell you what, man. If Greg puts on his big boy pants and he hits the live stream circuit when that new Creech book comes out that he's working on, if he's got the balls and he goes on the live stream circuit and he doesn't worry about what people say about him, that thing's going to be friggin' huge.
Yeah, there was a time that Greg and I were like really tight, and that guy is genuinely funny and he's entertaining. I think if he got on like what we're doing right now. Because he's a performer, he's a rocker too.
He could be that guy that
oh yeah, he would be a big personality, and also he can shoot from the hip. Like he doesn't really care. Like he'll say some crazy shit. Yeah. If he
came and hung out, he doesn't even need to say CG. Just came hang out with CG on his live streams.
Let's get him on.
That would blow up, and he's somebody who doesn't need to worry about Marvel or DC.
No, I think he's one of those guys that's fairly untouchable.
Yeah.
Why don't you get him on?
Talk to him. See it? Yeah. And they hey, no strings attached or anything. Let's just talk down.
Yeah, let's talk about what you got going on, what's coming next.
An interview with Art T-Bear.
Greg knows where to find me. You know, it's one of those things that it's.
I'm going to reach out for you.
Well, go for it. The thing is, it's kind of like
scared.
I'm not scared either. But it's like what Ethan and I and other people have talked about behind the scenes is that they have to make the move because this is kind of a lot of heat.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to be that guy that's like, hey, come on over, everything will be fine. You know what I mean?
No, you don't want to say that.
Yeah. So like Aaron Lepresti, like we talked for a long time, before. And so Aaron really wanted to make sure that everything was cool. And so then, he came over, but at that point, he made the decision. He was asking me the questions. He was moving things forward.
Yeah.
It wasn't me going, hey, Aaron, you should really come over here and do this.
I think
that's a better way to go about it.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I think a lot of people got scared off because of people going like, welcome to CG, in their chat and stuff like that, because there's so much disinformation about what Comicsgate is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're going to have to sift through it and figure it out.
Well, I'll tell you, just when you said that, Bob, I just thought about like myself, like coming into this thing. There's a weird like Clinton and Todd know this. Like there's an isolation when you're an artist, and so there isn't that kind of acceptance. Like people in chat are like, yeah, you guys go. I've never had that kind of thing ever before in my career, and so it's kind of like there's this overwhelming acceptance that when it happens, you kind of feel like, what's going on? Like, you know how they say, oh, it's a cult, it's this, that, and the other thing. It kind of feels weirdly artificial. So it takes time to go, no, these people are legit. Yeah. These people have integrity. These people actually care. They're passionate. So, like just your point, Bob, like, welcome to CG. It feels strange. It's like, welcome to the cult. Like, welcome to this.
And that's
strange.
I think that's what a lot of them thought. They were like, oh, wait a minute, what is this? I don't know if I want to be a part of this.
I always put it to like when I first got in and like going on shows and going in the chat and talking to everybody, I always put it to, it's a 24/7 all year long comic book convention. And like your YouTube channel or your Indiegogo page is your table. And the chat is fans coming by and hanging out and BSing with you. Like, but it's all online, but it's very much to me like a comic book convention. Like you're selling sketches, you're selling your books, but it's, as many times as you do your YouTube show, for however long you run your IGG page, like that has always been the feel to it for me. And it's never been like this weird, like, oh, it's CG fans or like, welcome to CG. It's like CG fans are comic book fans. Like, plain and simple, that's what it is.
Hardcore fans.
Exactly. They're the fans that are wait at your table at a convention and will put up a comic book that you forgot you worked on and want your signature. Those are that's Comicsgate fans. They're the hardcore fans. That's why I love CG. That's why I love Comicsgate. It's why I love the chat. Like, these are the guys that are like enjoy what I do and want me to sign their book. Love these guys. Love them.
Well, I want to hit on this. Neon.
Let me speak on this.
Yeah. Go check out Clownfish TV. It's a great station. It's a great channel. Neon and Geeky Sparkles are usually.
I love how you call them a station, man.
I can say usually they're always right on, like their takes on stuff. And so I think this is one of those right on takes. It's like if you even mention CG, they call you CG. So you can't even say anything unless it's completely negative. But if you're just even like a little bit like, hey, there's this CG book, black and white or whatever it is, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're just labeled. You're just automatically labeled by the hate mob, and they come after you. And that's very intimidating for a creative person to.
And that's okay, by the way, right? It was really hot and contested early on, and there were shots going back and forth. Well, the shots, we stopped shooting back because that's not, that's not that's not your audience. Two, there's no win. It's a no-win, right? You shoot back, you start lobbing shots back. There's a no-win scenario.
Like, who cares about SJWs? First of all, they don't buy comics. They don't. Right. They're eating cat food.
So we have sort of lightning rods, right? We have those guys. They'll do all that for you in their own shows, but it doesn't need to be on Twitter anymore. That's silly. It really is silly. So we just work towards gaining more fans, bringing more people over here. The books get better, the quality gets better, the artists come, and that gets better. That helps. So it tightens up the community as far as like, wow, this is a real thing. This is a real deal. There's
it's all happened
great
naturally.
shit over there.
This is the other reason why it'll work is because it's all happened naturally. It's not been artificial where like somebody dumps a bunch of money into something to try and like start something up. Like CG built up from the ground floor up of comic book fans being pissed about the crap that the big two are pushing out. It all happened naturally. Artists, creators, writers,
nobody's investing in us other than you. Right?
Yeah,
Fans.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's nobody coming along with investment money or venture capital. It's the fans. They're investing in it.
The fans found the creators, and the creators found the fans, and they're both on the same page. They're both
and it's
like they both like the same things. Like the people that buy my books like the same kind of shit that I like, big tits, and the people that buy my book are the same kind of people that I am. It's like you find each other, you know.
Well, let me ask you because Zach doesn't usually talk unless we ask him a direct question. One, hey Zach, welcome to Pontificators.
Hey Zach.
Hey. Back Zach's book. The link is in the chat.
Yeah. So what's your take on this, Zach?
Okay, so for CG, as far as like the pros wanting to come on to it but being too afraid, it feels like it was easy for me to jump into it because literally I had nothing to lose. You know what I mean? That's a big part of it, is I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to prove to anybody as far as like, you know, if an SJW comes after me and starts, you know, bashing on me for, you know, being a part of a hate group or anything, it's just like, I don't really care because you weren't going to buy my comic anyways. I'm not making this for you, you know, and all the people that are, because I was a fan of CG before I became a creator. I was one of those people that was like, this is like the new image. These guys are making awesome stuff. I'm putting my money into your comics and I want to be a part of this. That's where I came from. So it's like, I am the audience becoming a creator. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like, I don't have anything to lose by being a part of this. And I want to be a part of this because I want to be that next generation of comic artist that pushes the boundaries and creates new content for that, you know, you know, one day they'll make documentaries about us. You know what I mean? I want to be a part of that. You know?
Yeah, well, I think you are, and welcome, young lad, because the thing is, that's what this needs. That's what's great about this, and just kind of like how we were talking about, like old guys, you know, the old guys that can't really get a break at the mainstream coming into CG. That's one element, but there's also people like Zach, you know, and even Todd. Like Todd came. Like, where the hell did Todd come from? You know, all of a sudden this Florida man comes out. It freaking rocks everybody's world. Galma comes out, you know, and everybody's like, holy shit, there's painted comics. You know, it's somebody fall where your head's Zach.
Yeah, no, my daughter throwing stuff, you know how it is.
You can put that anywhere.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like for this to continue, it has to kind of keep moving this way, right? So then you're always bringing new people in, keeping it fresh, keeping it exciting. So then it's always cycling through. So like an older guy like me, and I don't even have one of the biggest channels, but I have, you know, in comparison, I have an okay channel, right? But then there's guys that are even bigger than I am, and they share their channels with me, and then I share channels and so on and so forth. So as we each kind of build up our own audience and our own, I guess, success, we share that with everybody else, you know? So as soon as, you know, Zach and Clint and Todd, when you guys are like, you know, selling, you know, doing 100,000 campaigns and stuff like that, then, you know, the newer guys coming in.
From your words of God's.
It's going to happen. It's actually happening. And having said that, you guys, I always stay open to new campaigns and things. And if you guys want to, you know, DM me through Twitter or whatever, and ask to be on my show, just send me a link and let me know a little bit about you, and I'll do that, because I do have the Hacks chat where I'll bring people in, and we basically try to find new people, like how Zach merged, and Clint. I know you've done a lot of mainstream work, but like here, I think is I don't know, is this the biggest feedback and success that you've had in the industry?
Oh yeah, by far. Like I've done a bunch of stuff for indie comics, but nothing close to what I've been doing with CG. CG has been huge for me. It's been a game changer. I couldn't be more excited about it. Like I was just a guy that bounced around from indie publisher to indie publisher, and you're always looking for your next gig. But you always, like, as a creator, you've always got your own stuff that you want to do, and to kind of find this audience that is kind of got the same interests, like the same type of fan base, the same type of you're both on the same page. Like, it's been a total game changer for me.
Well, I have a friend. He's a rock and roller, and he writes for Jeff Dunham. He writes jokes for Jeff Dunham now. And he's a guitar guy. His name is Brian Hayner, and he goes on stage every once in a while with Jeff. And like I said, his persona is guitar guy, and so our kids went to the same school when I lived in California. They don't live in California either. They got out too. Anybody that reasonably or just reasonable or somewhat conservative, they get the hell out, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're talking about just fandom and things like that, and he said, you don't need to be liked by everybody. You don't need to to try to, everybody, I'm going to make something for everybody. Try to tailor it down, and then once you try to cultivate that fan base, and then once you do, then just love the hell out of them. You know what I mean? Like, just embrace them. Just keep making product that that they want, because they're already supporting a certain, so you don't go like, well, I'm going to go way outside the box, and I'm going to create something that's whatever. You don't do that. You still try to tailor it to the audience that and so then you build that. And that's kind of what Comicsgate is. It's like, it's very kind of specific, but there are a lot of people coming in. There's more all the time. And there are people, believe it or not, that back the campaign, the black and white campaign, is like, where did this come from? Like, they didn't even know there was another campaign. They didn't know there was another book. You know what I mean? Like they're just coming in right now. And
like, Art, when did you start drawing comics? How did you get so good at drawing?
Where did you come from? No, but it's mainly just that book, like, because they're just coming in and they didn't know there was a campaign prior and all that other stuff. So these things are all good, I think. And there is a fan base, but it might seem small right now, but I think, it's just like how they talk about, like, there's moderates, there's people that are on the fence. And once like those progressives, once those people get off the fence, those progressives, those SJW, those extreme lefts, they're going to get their asses kicked, because I think those moderates are just going to, they're not going to necessarily go, you know what, we're left or we're right leaning or we're conservative. They're just going to speak their minds, and they're just going to speak out against these people.
They want good comics.
And if they just want the world to be decent again, you know what I mean? Because this is happening politically. It's happening in all art forms.
Oh yeah. You can see it starting to come.
Yeah, let me take this. Ryan Cardinal, the Ryan Cardinal. Thank you so much for the super chat, $5. Good day, Pontificators. Just letting you know that my book. All right, how do you say this, Bob?
Caius.
Caius, thank you. Is on Indiegogo now. Be sure to take a gander at the fully animated trailer.
I've actually seen his trailer, and the animated trailer is like,
well,
wow.
Can one of you guys find this, and we'll show it off? I mean, Ryan's been very generous here. We'll give him a little moment.
Yep.
It's a race.
The links in the chat. I'll drop the link in the chat for you, in the back chat here.
Okay. Cool.
There you go.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks, Bob. All right, so let's share this with everybody. See what Caius is all about. And thank you so much. I
remember seeing this trailer, and it was pretty impressive.
Yeah,
it makes me feel bad about my trailers.
Your trailers are awesome, dude.
They're awesome and that they're so bad.
No, I like how you narrate them and everything. I mean, it's
Dive.
it's good stuff, man. Don't. So
I think I'm gonna
let's
start every trailer with dive into adventure.
dive into these and then show big bosoms. All right, so I think I got the sound up. Let's go with the video.
Story of Blood and Stone Missions 1 and 2 go live on Indiegogo September 7th. Be sure to get your hands on these action-packed adventure comics and don't miss out.
I have no
Okay,
idea.
the chicken.
Wait. I have no idea what the hell this is about, but fuck, man, that just kicked my ass.
Like the animation is like, god damn.
It just attacks
Dude, the chicken is my favorite character now.
The chicken rules.
with the stogie. Yeah, with the stogie. Yeah, this is badass, dude.
Like that grabs your attention right away. You want to know more.
Yeah, so it looks like he just launched. He's got 22 days left, 53 backers. Is at 3,300. Definitely, like I'm a big Acura fan, so it's got like kind of the logo. Looks like it. Once again, I don't have any idea what the hell this is about, but who gives a shit, right? Look at this thing. The chicken also has like a Robin Hood hat on. Like, what the hell is going on? This dude's riding.
The chicken is definitely awesome.
Oh my gosh.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, this looks crazy.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer. I think I must have been on a show with them. They all blur together, but I was like, holy crap, that was insane.
Okay, and it might just be because of his recent passing, but I got Norm Macdonald's voice coming out.
Oh, Norm.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Oh, you could totally see Norm doing the voiceovers for that chicken.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. So, Ryan Cardinal, this looks freaking crazy. I'm definitely, I'm going to tweet this out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know why? This is just selfish on my part because I want to watch that trailer again. I don't have to look all over the place for it. This is very cool, dude. Yeah, thanks again for the super chat. I do appreciate it. Comicsgate is badass. Look at that.
I know. I want to do a little bit of animation in one of my trailers coming up. So bad because like it looks so awesome, but I know how much like work it takes.
Yeah. We got Pedro Eng, and he usually hangs out in the chat. He's got we showed them off on a live stream maybe it was last week, and there's animatics for black and white for the high.
Oh, dude, sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, they look badass, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
He said we should have them. I think he said next week, so we'll be able to show those off next week.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So does anybody have anything else to try to get back on track with the CG and why mainstreamers, or what will it take? Maybe that's the question. What will it take? And we'll leave on that. What will it take for mainstream to either like legitimize? I don't know if I want that though. I don't. No, I don't want
not going to happen.
Legitimize.
That's not our goal.
I think just get over it. Like the big two need to just get over it and realize that more big names are going to come over to CG, and they're only hurting themselves by like trying to exclude. I think.
Yeah.
I think
as more of the old guard gets pushed out.
Yeah.
There's going to be a point where like editors are going to need to make good comics to keep their job, and they're going to need the creators that are at CG because they're making the best comics around.
Wouldn't that be ironic? Okay, this was a moment in time that happened. I don't know if many people know this. Okay, so Image Comics, we're in the heat of creating these books, selling millions of copies every month. And so Bob Harris calls up, the heads of each one of these studios, Liefeld, McFarlane, Silvestri, Lee, all these guys, right? And says, we want to give you, we're going to give you anything you want. So you can come and you guys can write and draw the Avengers. You can write and draw Captain America, Iron Man, whatever it is. Come on over and we'll pay you a bunch of money, and this will be the event of the summer. So that was Heroes Reborn or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's funny because when I left Image and I went over to DC, I ended up doing the Heroes Return. Like that was my book. It was so funny. But anyway, so these guys, are like, okay, they got this pitch, right? And then what was on the plans was for that summer, because this was going to be a big summer thing for Marvel. That summer, there was going to be a big Image crossover. So all the titles were going to cross over. It was going to be a big epic universe kind of storyline. All of this stuff was going to happen. So everybody's kind of gearing up, for this to take place. And so, then there were people at Image were just like, absolutely not. Like Todd, some of those guys, they put their foot down and said no. But then all it took was a few people, Jim Lee, mainly, and Rob Liefeld, that were like, yeah, we'll do it. I knew at the time it was the kiss of death because, okay, you guys have this big event for the summer. I think Marvel knew. So then Marvel makes this Hail Mary pass to you guys, right? And then you guys take it. Image could have destroyed Marvel for that month. They could have just decimated them if they did that massive crossover between all the titles, had all these, hot talent, Del Keown. Like they would have just pulled not only the 7 guys, but they would have pulled everybody into this stuff, right? It would have been epic. It would have been epic. But instead, it factions, right? It just like fractures, and some stay, some go. And then that was the beginning of the end because there was no loyalty. You guys created this brand called Image Comics. Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, what's happening at DC Comics? Jim has done that before. You know what I mean? Like he's done this stuff. Like he doesn't have that kind of loyalty. Once again, he just wants to take care of himself. Like himself. That's it. And so these guys were very self-serving to stroke their egos, and they did it, right? But at the cost of Image Comics.
Yeah.
This entity that they built, they were like, screw that. We're going to go back and we're going to do this epic crossover. Nobody knows. Nobody cares about that Marvel Heroes, Reborn and all that other stuff. It didn't have staying power. It was a moment in time. But an epic Image crossover, I think people would still be talking about that today.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of like the way I see like Comicsgate. Like even if like we've had these factions that have splintered off, right? So you have Doug TenNapel, you have Mike, S. Miller, you have these guys that were like, well, no, we're going to leave CG. You see what happened, Doug already had a fan base, so he wasn't hit as hard, and he had a real popular IP. But if he was trying to do anything again from the ground up, I think it would be hard for him.
Oh yeah.
So then you can already see that as an entity, CG has that strength. They have that unity, and also we know if somebody that's an A-lister like Doug TenNapel leaves, nothing happens. Right? Oh, yeah. There's some drama, there's some tension, but ultimately it's still built up. It's still got
Comicsgate moves on.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
All right.
And you wither on the vine without it.
Yeah. So that's kind of my thing. Do you guys have any parting observations with the topic?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Zach.
Okay. Well, my parting thought is that CG is just like, this is a weird thing, but the more I've gotten into cryptocurrency, the more I've seen a parallel of this wonderful new thing that has so much potential that is absolutely getting just immense amounts of FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, thrown at it just because it's a threat to higher powers. It's a threat to the dollar. So anybody that's invested in the dollar hates Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Anybody's in, these banks are absolutely trying to destroy cryptocurrency. And it's very much like CG, and then DC and Marvel are trying everything they can to destroy CG because they see it as a threat. So we're doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's all it tells me, is that we're doing something correct if these higher powers want to snuff us out.
Absolutely.
If they see us enough of a threat to snuff us, to try and snuff us out, then we're doing something correct. And
Man, I tell you, Zach doesn't say much, man. He just swoops in and just freaking kills.
Nails it
Great,
on
man.
the
That was
head.
great. So how about you, Todd?
You're muted.
Muted.
I like what Pete was saying in the chat about just create good stuff, stay the course, and whoever comes. We don't really need to recruit, but we're already strong and tight and helping each other out. We got a great audience as far as fans and buyers and backers and stuff. It can't get any better. We just got to get better at utilizing all these strengths.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Is we got to get better at that. I tried to create that channel. I don't know if you guys remember the co-op channel, where I was trying to create a big channel for everybody to use. Now that idea might come back around someday, and there is a channel that everybody can use. But it's that kind of spirit of things where it isn't just about you. It is about cultivating a bigger audience for everybody and sharing that audience with the other creators and stuff. And I think we'll get there. I think I hear a lot of talk in the background about this, that, and the other thing. And I think it'll happen organically and naturally as one thing crumbles and we're rising and we're building. We're on a good foundation. And I wouldn't say that 2-3 years ago, but I think we're on a really good foundation now.
Yeah, there was a couple years ago where it did feel shaky for me, and I think Chrono Mechanics was one of those casualties, because that's when things were splintering. But I do think that if something like that happened today, I don't think it would have the impact, because I think there was kind of a perfect storm. There was like Mitch Breitweiser, not fulfilling and kind of not keeping up with his backers, and then there was Mike, which is legendary, and then there was a Doug TenNapel. You know what I mean? So there was this weird thing, and there was also a thing called War Campaign, which is I don't know where that's at now, but there was a lot of kind of things happening that weren't necessarily moving us in the direction that we're at now. So there was kind of a major hiccup, and I was there, and I did pay a price for it. But I was talking to my professional buddies about this, and it for the lack of a better word, it feels calm. It feels calmer. It feels like things are possible.
More focused.
Yeah, it's more focused. It's more direct. It's more like, we're going to do comics. We're going to do great comics. We're going to cultivate an audience. It's kind of like the business model. It was forged out of just a lot of chaos, but now it's starting to become very clear and very apparent what this is, to even people that are out there that are casuals, and like the whole topic is the mainstream. So the mainstream are starting to see where we're at now, because where we were at a year, 2 years or whatever, it's not the same attitude. It's not the same CG.
One thing I would like to see, though, is someone who's like present and has their book. They stay present when they don't have their book. Like you see a few guys that kind of just they take a back seat and they go away and they're not retweeting anybody, they're not doing anything. And then when their book's about to come out, then you see them again. They want to get on all the shows and stuff. And I really wish they wouldn't do that. I think I'd like to see their presence be felt, whether it's only on Twitter or only on some of the other things, but always be there. You know, I think there's a few guys. I don't want to name any names, but I think there's a few guys that are just present when their book is in need. And then
I've been kind of one of those guys from time to time, but just to kind of to that point, when you create these books, there's kind of like there's these two modes that you're in. So when you launch the campaign, you're in campaign mode. So you're like running for office, right? So you're like everywhere and you're like spreading the word. And then after that, you funded the book, you know, you're in demand or whatever, you know, then things kind of level off. And now you have to do the book. You know what I mean? Then you kind of drop back a little bit from the public eye so you can spend more time actually drawing the book. So it is kind of a balance. And I know what you're talking about, Todd, because some guys absolutely disappear.
Yeah, you don't want to completely disappear, but there's a lot of work. And it's like, you know, being on YouTube shows and on Twitter, I mean, you don't think it's that much a tweet, but like you're just drawing all day long and just trying to get the book out, and like everything else kind of falls to the wayside. But yeah, you still, like you said, you still want to be out there and stay kind of in the circles and do a YouTube show once in a while. So yeah, like even in between campaigns, when you're
busy doing your thing, prop up your cohorts, your colleagues, prop them up. And the easiest thing to do is retweet, obviously.
Yeah, I do that all the
for
time.
Sure.
Yeah, the thing is that what I'm seeing now and what I wanted to do early on, but there was just kind of like people would go, oh, the bat signal would go up, and then you just jump on somebody's. So this is how it was. It was kind of chaotic. So if you weren't really managing your time, you could spend 6 hours or longer, you know, on these live streams. So what's happening now, I think, is there's a structure that's formed. So like Pontificators is every night at Wednesday. I think we were one of the first that had kind of like, it was the Jack show, but I think even Pontificators predates the Jack show. It's always on a certain night at a certain time. And so then like we have the Professionals, which is the same. And so then even Ethan's got the CG King show, which is every Monday. So when you do this, then like I think freelancers like us, we know every week this window that's going to be carved out that we're going to do these shows. And I think it makes it easier to schedule your work, you know, around.
Yeah.
So it does kind of bring a sanity too. But I do think
the random show popping up at the last minute is brutal.
Yeah, God.
Even when it's a show you know you want to be on.
And you never
right now?
do well on them.
Yeah.
You never do well on them too, man.
I
hate doing impromptu shows, man, because I always end up looking like a friggin' idiot.
But the thing is, Bob, like you're one of those guys that, man, you don't need that much time to prep, but you can just bring it, you know, like, and in a way that I can't. I kind of like the shows that I just jump into because I have no pretense and I don't have time to get like nervous about it. I don't have any preconceived notions. I kind of just do it. And the best thing is when I'm already kind of slightly inebriated, I think.
You got to grease the wheels, man.
Yeah, you can kind of go there and you're like, hey.
Here's the thing, though. Let me ask you a question. Are you better at this now than you were when you first started?
I don't know about better. That's up to the people that are watching me. I'm more comfortable with it and I enjoy it. You know, and that for me is big because I think if you enjoy what you're doing, then it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like, you know, oh, I'm gonna do a live stream just to promote my book. You know, it's kind of like I want to hang out. Like I love hanging out with Ethan and the guys. I love the Professionals. I love this Pontificator show, hanging out with you guys. So I look forward to it every week. You know.
Yeah, the longer you do it, the better you get at it because the more comfortable and natural you get to it. And when you have a group of people that you can just be honest with, it's even more so. So, and that's why I think these kinds of streams that we're doing like this, these are important because it's teaching people And it's important that we bring people on every now and then who are new to this, because it's going to teach people how to promote themselves.
Yeah. And I think that Todd is really good. And you too, Bob. Like, we should start thinking about that, because both you guys reach out to, and you guys have brought in some great guests.
Everybody.
And Zach, I think, what's the guy that does the remark or remind?
Oh yeah, Jason.
Yeah,
Jason.
Yeah, Jason is like a master of the crowdfund. Like, he's one of the early pioneers of it. And I don't think we ever got him on the show, but I know Zach goes on his show a lot. And I've talked to Jason about coming on. And he's one of those guys he understands it, man. He understands what Comicsgate is, and he's not intimidated by it. I wouldn't say he's Comicsgate, but he's not intimidated by it. And I think that's kind of what's going to help too, is like, even, like Clownfish TV, they still talk about Comicsgate. They get a lot of shit for it because there's a lot of narrow minds out there, but they understand what it is, and so does Jason, and there's a lot of other people that do too. So I kind of want to go out with a black and white mention, because I am in campaign mode. So let's do this. So here we go. This is black and white. What's that?
You shameless shill.
I am a shameless shill.
It's his show. He can shill all he wants.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you. Check is in the mail. Also, Zach, just if you guys have time, you and your wife and your daughter, we should hang out this weekend, because I didn't get to take Pamela to Old Town Spring.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
No. I will see what's going. Yes.
Yeah, because we had that
yes.
rain. Yeah, we had that big rainstorm on her birthday. So that was my birthday present to her. But yeah, we'll work it out. So yeah, this is a Black and White Volume 2, Man versus Machine. In a world where law and order is often blurred to gray, justice can only be black and white. So we have 595 backers. We're at 50,564. Let me hit a refresh, see what's going on. Boom, baby. Look at that. Yeah, 50,698. You guys are the best. We're 10 days away, and 1,000 backers. As most of you guys know, that's like the prime spot for these campaigns, and it mainly because of print runs. You get a print, you get a break at the cost 1,000 or more. So it does look like, well, I don't want to jinx it, but with a lot of work and word of mouth, I do believe that we can get to that 1,000 backer number. So yeah, you guys, link is in the description for Black and White. Here's the fantastic cover, colored by Stefani Renee. And we just added the Inko t-shirt. That's good ink. That you can actually get as an add-on as well. All the book tiers you can get as an add-on. You can get the story layout pages as add-ons. And the only one you can't is the Grey Capullo. Let me see. The Grey Capullo variants. So you can't get those. And congratulations, you guys. We just unlocked that 50K stretch goal, which is the upgraded cover with the graphic novel format. So it's square bound. So, and that's going to be all the covers that are in this campaign. So all the books that are in this campaign will have that upgraded cover. The next goal is 55, and that's paper stock. We're gonna make this book sing. So, we're on our way to that 55K. So thank you guys so much. I do appreciate it. Comicsgate is badass, and we will keep this party train going. Hell yeah. So yeah. Hey, thanks, Todd, for coming in. I do appreciate it. And I do appreciate you coming in early instead of, last 10 minutes of the show. That's good. and Clint, man, you're becoming a hit on this channel. So thanks. And Zach, you don't say much, but when you come in, boy, you speak volumes. And Bob, man, thanks for always the heavy lifting, man. You always come through in these situations, and I do appreciate it.
No problem,
and
man.
I think Comicsgate and the Pontificator, listeners do as well. So I'll probably be bugging the hell out of you guys for the next month or so, like with daily streams. And everybody here has a YouTube channel, so go subscribe. The cool thing is Bob like does artwork. Are you still doing the drawings and the inking?
I'm trying to get as much in as I can. I'm going to do a lot over the weekend because I'm actually taking a couple days off. I'm doing some charity streams with some friends of mine for there's a childhood immunodeficiency, and
I'm doing some
we're gonna
charity this
we're
weekend.
gonna play a lot of video
friendly
games. Yeah, we're gonna do some video games and stuff, and I'm gonna try and sneak some drawing in because this week I've been getting my ass kicked. I wasn't supposed to be here today, man. Like I'm stuck at work. I'm working 14-hour days, and I'm still working on the same piece for like a month.
Yeah, it happens.
I can only get like an hour of time in, man, and it's like it takes me a half hour to warm up because I suck.
Yeah, welcome to the world of the freelance, like
God
like
dang, man.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna
but
do it. We're gonna
I
learn how to
enjoy-
draw together, guys.
Yeah, I enjoy watching you do that. And like I said to you before, the cool thing about it is it's like a diamond in the rough. Like people get to see like an artist actually develop, on YouTube. And you guys go subscribe to Bob's channel. It's really cool. Bob's a good guy. And I'm going to leave it at that. So everyone take care. Have a wonderful